It's Ecology Matters. I'm Pat.
And I'm Jeanette.
And today we're doing something a little bit different to start with. We've just stopped to have a look at this plant. You'll see it in the foreground, bright yellow flowers. I don't know if you recognise it. It's called winter aconite. It's just an interesting find, quite localised in this part of the country where we're working. We thought you'd like to see that just at the start. We're off to do something quite interesting, as usual. We'll see you later. Hiya, now then, the reason I'm giggling a little bit, as I often do, admittedly, on these little videos that we show you, is that today we're here doing a tree survey. We're supposed to be here doing a tree survey. Some of the trees behind me that you can see are due to come out for a development scheme. And we are here to try and make an assessment of the likelihood of bats using them, and nesting birds, and one or two other things here as well. There are badgers in the wood as well. The problem is, as you can see behind me, we can't actually get to some of the trees, and we know a lot of trees in this area have basal cavities and other features low down, which quite clearly are underwater at the moment.
So when there's a lot of trees to survey, it can be quite difficult and you can get distance orientated very easily. This is a ground level inspection survey today. So the approach we've taken is we've gone round and we've marked some of the trees with different coloured dots. We've got a red dot here, which signifies that there's some features of interest that we need to look at. There's a basal cavity at the bottom. We'll get the endoscope on that. And there's also some woodpecker holes at height on this second branch that's leaning out. It's important to be able to come back and know what you're looking at. So first things first, let's give the tree a tag. Not sure my hammer skills are that good, but anyway, there we have it. Number one, we're going to make some comprehensive notes now on this tree so that we can outline what features are here, what are of interest, and then we can do some other surveys, a little bit more detailed surveys in a bit.
Hey, this is a really interesting feature on this tree. Got the endoscope up inside it. I'm holding it carefully because, as you probably know, if you're used to using endoscopes, the distance between things is quite difficult to gauge sometimes when you're using them because of the very wide angle lens and the very small distances we're talking about. Anyway, I'm having a look up in this feature. It's fascinating how the tree's been damaged here and it's partially grown back. There's a kind of a lip of a regrowth of tissue around the edge, what we call occlusion. And it's provided a sort of an almost sealed cavity for bats to potentially use. So let's have a look with the endoscope and see what we can see. Hey, one other thing to consider when you've got features like this on trees, that they can go both up and down sometimes through the stem, through the trunk. Bats don't always just go up into features, they will go down below features sometimes. It's a little bit surprising because you might expect the water to run down and sort of snow and all the materials, debris to accumulate on the bats sometimes, but some of them seem to be okay with that. So what I'm doing here now is I'm having a look right down the trunk as well, really carefully in this sort of cavity to see if there's anything else below the lip rather than just above.
We found quite a lot of features already. We're going to show you some pictures, but I just thought I'd point out this ivy because this can be quite a tricky one and can be one that gets overlooked. The stems on this ivy are quite broad and wide, so bats have been known to roost behind them. But the other thing that you need to think about is that the ivy itself, as it twists and winds around the tree, can be obscuring some features that we can't see ourselves. So we're flagging this one up for further inspection and we're going to look at this a little bit more carefully.
It's one of our artificial refuge here that we've put down in the woodland. We're not very far from some ponds here, so while we're doing the work on the bats, we're also interested in checking for other protected species like great crested newts, just in case, and badgers of course, plenty of those. Lots of fallen wood here, lots of wood that's accumulated over many years. You can see that some of this has just shattered when it's fallen to the ground, creating lots of interesting, very diverse microhabitats for invertebrates and what have you. Lots and lots of different sort of features here in this woodland, despite the fact that it's sort of ravaged by deer. You can see there's very little understory across much of it.
Ooh, there is one downside to using this spray paint. It gets all over you. Don't tell Pat, I think I've got it on the binoculars.